What did you learn about fighting with your family? Like, were there rules of engagement? What type of behavior did you see modeled out for you? Was it the type of behavior that made you cringe? Or was it a type of interaction that you admired and respected and you practice as an adult moving into your life? Have you learned how to do things differently than what was modeled for you in your home that you grew up in? Or have you become your parents? Have you done things the exact same way that you saw it modeled? How has that been working for you? And are there opportunities for you to do better? In our time together in tonight's episode of the Law for Love Living Room, we're going to be talking about conflict resolution. Was it a conversation that you ever even had at the dinner table? Or was it just something that you just duked it out until somebody finally tapped out? We're going to talk about it along with these three rules of engagement to create more of an awareness around what love looks like when we're being strategic and loving at the same time. So when I'm teaching people how to think the way that lawyers are trained to think, like completely rewired through the process of law school and reading tens of thousands of pages of this same framework over and over and over again. The very first place we start is with facts. We start with facts because what the facts cannot be disputed. The facts can be argued. The facts can be they could be seen from a certain perspective. We can put the facts in the best light to benefit a client or a client's position, but facts can't really be changed. It is what it is. The sky is either blue or it's not. It's either raining outside or it's not. Facts are the who, what, when, where, and how of the situation that most people who were involved in the situation can agree this is what happened. But what we often do is we treat our emotional response or our feelings as though our feelings are fact. And where a lot of intimate relationships begin to deteriorate is arguments over whether or not your feelings are correct, whether or not you were justified to feel the way that you're feeling. Listen, emotions are emotions and they're going to be stronger in intimate spaces because intimate spaces are where you're supposed to have the freedom to feel what you feel. But the reality of emotions is that emotions make you sad sometimes, right? Emotions make you cry sometimes. And sometimes in family situations, people feel some type of way about your feelings, which you have a right to. And this is why focusing on the facts is the best way to resolve the conflict. Because if we're going to have conversations about your feelings, your reaction, your response, that is the never ending story. What are the facts? When did it happen? What happened? Who was there? And begin with framing, can we all agree that this is what happened? This is who said what. This is who did what without feelings. Just the facts, please. The very next step in the think like a lawyer framework is what is the issue? What question are we really trying to solve right now? What happens is in a lot of intimate conflict is that we want to be right. We want to be justified. We want to be proven that the way we saw it was the right way and the only way. But in intimate spaces, the issue is so much more nuanced because either we're going to abide in this relationship together and we're going to grow together through this conflict, or we're going to come to an end of the road. Although we've gone to the end of the road. The issue is this: are we going to grow together through these differences? Or are we going to be done with this relationship? Is this conflict going to strengthen us or end us? And if the conflict is going to strengthen us, then the next question is what is it that you need? Your needs that are not being addressed in the way that I'm showing up in this conflict. And what is it that I need in the way that your reaction is not meeting my need? Because if we're going to grow, then these are the questions that we need to answer together to grow. But if it's the end of the road, let's go ahead and agree to do that in a way that's respectful of your right to choose whether or not you want to continue in this journey, in this adventure of being in my intimate space. The next rule of engagement in thinking like a lawyer and fighting like we're family is honor. Y'all, you're about to get tired of hearing me talking about honor, because we need to bring honor back. We need to have some conversations about what does this word even mean? How do I value who you are? How do I show deference for the inherent right you have in your position in my life? The very, very first commandment with a promise is to children concerning parents: honor thy father and thy mother. Why? Because it was establishing to children at a young age that there is an honor code in society. Even for adults, there is an honor for elders. And some kind of way, y'all. I mean, who took honor and dug a hole in the backyard and just buried honor? Because we are now in a culture where, I mean, like, there are no rules of engagement. You could come for your parents however you want to come for your parents. You could talk to elders however you want to talk to elders. You could cuss out the president of the United States. And we are missing the spiritual keys of blessing and curses that are attached to the concept of honor. When I move in honor, y'all, I am releasing heaven's authority to intervene in a conflict on my behalf. When I know that I did the right thing, and in order for justice to be done in this intimate relationship, I have to move in honor. There is a power, a spiritual power that is released, and we're going to be diving deeper into this in the living room episode of this conversation. Honor is key. What I have been learning about this is a lesson that began more than 20 years ago when I realized, you know what? There was just some really, really interesting dynamics I noticed between my mom, her sisters, and my grandmother. And I began questioning, why is it that my mom and her sisters would just like trash my grandma? Like, grandma was not perfect. Grandma ain't that nice, and grandma, she ain't the one to be playing with. Let's establish that for the record. But as I was reading the scriptures, and I may have been 19 or 20 years old, I'm reading the scriptures, I began to see a pattern about blessings that flow generationally, and they flow downward from elders to younger people. And I want you to understand this. At the time, I had been going through chronic homelessness, domestic violence, on again, off again, attendance. Could not. It took me 10 years to finish a 4-year degree. Family, I was on the struggle bus. Okay, but I began to notice this pattern in the scripture, and I went and I approached my grandmother one day, and I asked my grandmother, because she had 7 children. I said, "Grandma," I said, "have any of your children ever come to you for your blessing?" I had no idea that that question would set my grandmother off. She When she went to answer that question, she was enraged to really think about and confront that none of her children had ever come to her and asked for her blessing. And after I let my grandma get that get that steam off, I said, "Grandma, can I ask you for something?" She said, "What is it, baby?" I said, "Can I have your blessing?" I want you to know that that key to the kingdom I am convinced, and you will not convince me otherwise. My grandmother's blessing that she released over me with her words and her prayer in that moment, she was so blessed to have a young person come to her and ask her for a blessing. Lady not perfect. Lady got issues. Lady was not nice. Okay? That again, my grandma was far from perfect. My grandmother released a blessing over me. I'm telling y'all, in less than a year, everything turned around. I began to come back into my right mind. My living situation began to stabilize. I was able to return to school. I began to get clarity about my assignment to go to and complete law school. Because at that point, I was afraid to go to law school. Everything began to align and position me to overcome things that other people in my same situation still have not overcome. And it was because of the honor that I showed to an elder. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I don't play when it comes to my elders. And it's because I have come to understand they don't have to be perfect to be able to bless you. They have a spiritual authority to leave a blessing on your life that will catapult you above your circumstances if you will trust the system. We need to bring honor back. I have even more testimonies about honor, even in the area of how my father released a blessing over my life just weeks before he died. We're going to talk about it in the Law for Love living room. If you've never attended How to Think Like a Lawyer and Fight Like a Lover, we have that class in the description box where you can sign up, get a preview of how we teach this, like how we're helping people to navigate conflict resolution in their intimate spaces using the power of legal strategy and all of the lessons of the Bible that just come together where love is something more than just how I feel in the moment. Love is how I treat you, and love is how I grow with you even through our conflict. I look forward to seeing you in the living room Monday night, 6:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, it starts at 6:10 to give folks some time to show up into inside the living room. This is an intimate conversation, intergenerational, intersex conversation about life, love, and relationships. We're going to talk about these rules of engagement tonight and how we can do a better job fighting like we're family for real. I love you all. Be blessed and encouraged.